Chapter 197 Solo Kill on the Mother Beast. The Fire Intermediate Magic, Fiery Fist, and the Lightning Intermediate Magic, Thunderbolt, could be called the most dreadful and formidable spells among the classic elements. However, these two were very different from one another. The Fiery Fist caused an explosion in a certain direction, and was able to completely obliterate a large group of enemies in front of the user. Thunderbolt was straight lightning. It could only hit a single target, but as the chief of the classic elements, lightning's tyrannical destructive power was incomparably powerful when it reached the intermediate level. If you dodge it, you'll be fine. If you get hit, you'll die for sure. When Mo Fan was up against the green demonesses, he never dared to use the lightning intermediate magic. The Thunderbolt's might was too dreadful, capable of turning not just the green demonesses, but also the infected girls, into superheated blood spray. However, now it was very simple. Using the descending Thunderbolt to extinguish the Mother Beast was more than just easy. Mo Fan was not lenient at all. Rumble. Thunder echoed within the middle of the venue. A large black hole had appeared on the stage, and the Mother Beast had turned into a scorched carcass that was about to fall into the hole created by the lightning. The green monsters in the whole arena had fallen to the ground in pain, while looking like their lifelines had been severed. The students were still running around. They didn't know what had happened. All they wanted was to leave this dreadful place as soon as possible. A few of the more courageous ones took advantage of the timing when the green demoness fell to the ground, writhing in pain, to rescue the students who were being attacked. Afterwards, they immediately ran toward the safety areas. The few students who were calmly fighting against the green demoness were still watching them cautiously. They maintained magic in their hands, in case they were attacked again. The middle of the venue was still a bit chaotic, but the people were gradually calming down. They looked toward the green demonesses on the floor from a safe distance. They had just gone from a dreadful life and death situation to what seemed to be a very puzzling one. They didn't know that someone had killed the Mother Beast. They were only watching them from a distance, and the green demonesses began to slowly shed their skins. They watched as the people within the skins crawled out, covered in some kind of slime. No one dared to casually walk up. No one knew whether these were humans or magical beasts. Up on the stage, Mo Fan was sprawled out on the floor. His calves were shivering non-stop. He still had some lingering fear. If the Star Atlas book given to him by Ms. Tong Yue were slower by even a moment, then he would have turned into a ghost under those claws. Fortunately, he had survived. Biz. Just as Mo Fan was going to lay down, the little loach pendant around his neck began to restlessly make noise. Mo Fan did not have any energy left, however, he couldn't deal with the little loach pendant acting so spoiled. At last, he could only crawl over to the carcass of the Mother Beast. "You even want a spirit this evil?" Mo Fan asked weakly. Ever since he had entered the arena, Mo Fan had been searching for the red dots, fought, and experienced an incredible fight against the Mother Beast. He really had used up every ounce of energy he had. The little loach pendant appeared to be very interested in the soul remnant of the Mother Beast. When Mo Fan got to there, he realized there was a deep blue cluster of light, like fireflies, floating out of the carcass of the Mother Beast. As though they had heard the call of the little loach pendant, these fireflies floated toward the pendant on Mo Fan's chest, like swallows returning to their nests. This is a soul essence?" Mo Fan gaped in astonishment. After obtaining the colossal energy from the underground holy spring, the current little loach pendant had no more interest in the soul remnants of servant-class monsters. Furthermore, those soul remnants were no longer able to improve it. However, the Mother Beast was a warrior-class creature. A warrior-class soul essence was worth, at the very least, 10 million RMB in the market. "Little loach pendant, you don't want to absorb this soul essence, right?" Mo Fan asked, with the intent to negotiate. The energy within the underground holy spring had been enormous. Right now, the little loach pendant had advanced to an incredibly high level. Other than things similar to the underground holy spring level of heavenly treasure, it most likely would not have any interest in them. However, the little loach pendant itself had the ability to absorb soul remnants and soul essences. If the soul essences were collected and auctioned off, then one would definitely earn a large amount of money. Mo Fan couldn't help but kiss the little loach pendant. However, the blood on his face accidentally dripped onto it. Mo Fan quickly used his own hands to wipe his little treasure clean. He didn't dare let this little ancestor feel wronged. After some discussion, The little loach pendant decided that this soul essence did not have much effect on itself, so it wouldn't force itself to eat it. It decided to help Mo Fan preserve it within the pendant. This caused Mo Fan to let out a big sigh of relief. This time, he really put his life into it, and the reward he got was large enough to be worth it. Boom! Just as Mo Fan was about to take a rest, the reinforced glass of the roof of the arena suddenly made a large noise. Mo Fan sat up and saw a shocking scene. A green creature with iron hooves descended from the skies. Those hooves had actually broken through the ceiling. Numerous glass fragments fell from the ceiling, and the green giant beast with iron hooves landed. It was like a small hill. When it landed, it actually caused the entire arena to rock a little. The scene of the green beast landing in the place was mind-blowing, and Mo Fan was completely dumbstruck. What was even more shocking was that a man was standing between the horns of the creature. The large beast and the man were not proportional to each other in terms of physique. However, he could still clearly feel that the man was the owner of this giant beast. The man's gaze swept across the gymnasium. He was looking at the green demonesses on the floor shrieking in pain, and shifted his gaze to land on Mo Fan up on the stage. Charge! Charge in! Do not let any monsters go! From a place not too far away, a group of hunter magicians in uniform charged in from the middle arena entrance. These hunter magicians' strengths weren't low. Each of them had a spell for movement, either using wind trail, or earth ripple, or even some magical boots. The one in charge was precisely the bald man. His speed was relatively fast. He almost instantly moved from the middle of the arena to the front of the gigantic green beast. Where is the mother beast? The bald captain's face looked like a demon. From the killing aura he emitted, one could tell that the number of monsters he had killed in the past was not few. The mother beast is dead, the man on the beast said slowly. Dead? As expected of a hunter king. We hadn't even gotten in here, and yet you've already killed the mother beast. It's just a pity about those girls who were infected, the bald captain said. They're all alive, the man on the beast said. The bald captain immediately surveyed the area, and realized that girls were climbing out of the carcasses of the green demonesses, looking extremely exhausted. Their skin was as white as paper. Some of them looked like their nutrients had been completely drained. They were so skinny that they were basically just skin and bones. Then, the kid killed the mother beast? The bald captain asked hesitantly. The Hunter King nodded. This ending also went against the expectations of the Hunter King, because some of the monitors had revealed that the mother beast's strength had already reached the warrior level. Go help them. Don't let these girls have any more traumatic experiences, the Hunter King said. Yes, yes. The bald captain hadn't completely regained his senses, but he hastily instructed the rescue team to take care of the girls. Chapter 198 Angel in His Heart. Mo Fan, Mo Fan. The little loli, Ling Ling, anxiously ran toward the stage. Brat, I am here. Mo Fan was lying there and tiredly waved his hand toward her. Mo Fan had no energy left to crawl up. When the battle ended, the wound on his body suddenly began to flare up. It was so painful that he couldn't stand properly. You are bleeding a lot. Ling Ling saw that Mo Fan's face was covered in blood. Her eyes couldn't help but redden. Before they entered the gymnasium, Mo Fan was indeed jumping around, looking like a hero. However, right now, who knew how many wounds there were on his body? Especially the two wounds on his cheeks, one that cut from his forehead to the bridge of his nose, and the other from one cheek to the other. Ling Ling could imagine just how dangerous it was for Mo Fan to battle against that female demoness. She knew that if this wound was a tad bit deeper, he would have lost his life. Looking at Ling Ling, who always seemed so dignified, about to cry, Mo Fan couldn't help but smile. This brat is a little lady after all. The rescue team quickly sent a healing magician over. Will this disfigure my face? Mo Fan couldn't help but ask as he looked at the healing magician in her white uniform. No, this kind of scar won't last long before it goes away. The healer smiled as she began to heal Mo Fan's wounds. The mystical ability of healing magic was something Mo Fan had witnessed before. As expected, the deep flesh wounds were healing at a pace he could see with his naked eyes under the silky white ray, and even the wound on his face was slowly regenerating. You didn't die after all this. I really admire that. Zhao Manyan walked over as he watched Mo Fan being healed. Zhao Manyan himself wasn't in good shape, either. Up on the third floor, he had fended off at least 20 different green demonesses. From the scars on his body, One could tell that he had also encountered a life-threatening situation. "All right, go and retrieve your achievements. Don't forget my lightning spirit seed," Mo Fan said to Zhao Manyan. "Then I won't be polite." Zhao Manyan nodded his head as he looked at the chaotic venue. "When you possess the lightning spirit seed, I presume you will be able to enter the main campus with a good attitude." "Main campus?" Mo Fan asked while puzzled. "Don't you know? Azure Campus is in fact what Pearl Institute calls the outer courtyard. This place is the gathering of the largest quantity of the people who have been accepted to the Pearl Institute. All of those who have successfully entered the school are allowed to stay here for 4 years. However, as long as their strength achieves a certain level, they will be allowed to engage in the main campus examination. You can go and ask any of the 30,000 students within the Azure Campus. Which one of them are not putting in their greatest effort to cultivate just so they can enter the main campus?" Zhao Manyan sat next to him. He wasn't in a hurry to retrieve the achievement reward. Zhao Manyan still felt confused as to how Mo Fan was able to save the lives of all the girls who were affected. They were all spirits which Mo Fan had worked hard to defeat. After the event, those girls will be so thankful to the hero who saved their lives, but the glory was supposed to belong to Mo Fan. "I feel so guilty taking it for myself." However, Zhao Manyan didn't decline just because of that. He knew what kind of guy Mo Fan was, and believed that a lightning spirit seed meant much more to him than all the current merits. Mo Fan would sell them to him, and Zhao Manyan's family was willing to spend money to purchase them. It would be a win-win situation for both. After Zhao Manyan left, Ling Ling gave Mo Fan a confused glance and asked, "It was clearly you who defeated the Spirit Queen. Why let him take that title? Don't you know the severity and impact of this event? You used all your power to save so many people. Don't you know all the benefits it will bring to you? The increase in experience is more important to me. The lightning spirit seed is too expensive. I cannot afford such a thing. If I don't work to increase my power, I'm afraid that I'll still be useless in 2 years when the hunter contest begins." "But why would you give it to him? Is it because he's the disciple of a renowned family?" Ling Ling puckered up her lips, looking rather unhappy. It's just she knew that this matter was something Mo Fan had used his own 2 hands to deal with from the beginning to the end. The one who should have been drowned in pleasure and praises should have been him. So why did it suddenly become Zhao Manyan, a supporting character, who enjoyed these benefits? Was it because this Zhao Manyan was the disciple of a reputable family? "I agreed to it. Please don't ruin it. I really need that lightning spirit seed, which is why the person who killed the mother beast was Zhao Manyan." "That is enough," Mo Fan said sincerely. "All right." Ling Ling was clearly not happy, her 2 cheeks bulging as she murmured, "You just said the hunter contest. Are you planning on participating?" "Yeah, I definitely will participate. Furthermore, I plan on getting first place." Mo Fan nodded solemnly. Within the hunter contest are all of the most outstanding young hunters from across the nation. They are experienced and knowledgeable. Each of them are veterans. Getting first place is very difficult. Ling Ling told him. "That's why I'll put in the effort to increase my strength in the next 2 years, Mo Fan said. The matters concerning the hunter contest was something Mo Fan had heard Ling Ling talk about a couple of days ago. Originally, Ling Ling thought Mo Fan only wanted to go there and fight a couple times. However, it seemed like he was very interested in the hunter contest. So much so that he'd even give up the honor this time in return for a lightning spirit seed that could increase his strength. The hunter contest was held once every 4 years. The prizes were most likely the most extravagant ones in all of the competitions in the country. In order to become famous, these young hunters would put all of their efforts into the hunter contest to reach victory. Ling Ling was puzzled. In fact, she thought Mo Fan participating in the hunter contest in 2 years was still a bit early, much less taking first place. You want first place?" Ling Ling suddenly realized something as she asked. "Yeah. If I remember correctly, the first place prize is a pair of magic wings. Those wings are indeed extremely valuable. However, you don't really need magic equipment at this moment. I think that a magic armor is far more realistic for you than wing equipment. The magical tools you own are so few it's almost pitiful," Ling Ling said. Ling Ling had actually met many disciples from the major families. Those outstanding disciples from major families would at least possess a few magic tools, and they would be even more than the spells they could cast. When she looked at Mo Fan, Although his strength was much stronger than those disciples from major families, he could only really bring out the blood beast boots. As for the bone scythe shield, it couldn't even be considered a magic tool anymore, as it was unable to defend against his current level of opponents. Ling Ling thought that the priority of the magic equipment right now should be a magic shield equipment, magic armor, and a deathstrike weapon. He could forget about the magic wings. Those kinds of things could be found, but not sought. Mo Fan saw Ling Ling's clear and logical reasoning. However, he did not give her any explanation. Forget it, I won't say anything. Ling Ling no longer questioned it. Instead, she approved of Mo Fan's methods. Mo Fan glanced at her. The little brat was very solemn as she said, "Every person has their own reason to become strong." Mo Fan was dumbstruck, and unable to stop himself from smiling. Yeah, every person had their own reason to become strong. Many of them had very simple reasons to become strong. At least, his own reason was very simple. In his heart, there was an angel. How could he not let her have wings? Lying on the stretcher, Mo Fan used his hand as a pillow for his head as he looked toward the skies. The dome was stomped by the large beast. Thus, he was able to see the beautiful sky just looking up. While he was slipping into sleep, he couldn't help but think of the smile on her face when she saw the magic wings. It would definitely be as beautiful as the night sky. Chapter 199 Honor Ceremony. The Pearl Institute Azure campus had a total of 30,000 students. The fact was, those who were admitted to the Pearl Institute by normal procedures were around 30,000 people, but adding in those who were admitted to the school with special circumstances, there were a total of around 50,000 students. When Mo Fan first entered the institute, he had made a big ruckus. As a result of it, he did not interact with the other students very often. Even his summoner classmates respected him while keeping a safe distance. Mo Fan had indeed brought back the resources of the summoner students. However, he had also completely ruined the reputation of the summoning school. The summoner students had to act like rats on the streets even when they were only going out for some food. However, during the monthly announcement of the institute, Academician Li actually announced shocking news to everyone. This was a one-time recognition. The biggest enemy of the student body of the institute, the demon Mo Fan, had actually done something heroic. The matters of the arena turning into demons was something that generated a huge buzz in a short period of time. The thousands of students who experienced it had spread their own versions after the holidays. The news media had also published reports regarding this matter. What had happened within the institute was naturally receiving a lot of attention. The case of the Mother Beast, a virus-like entity sneaking in, was no one's fault, and how they dealt with it did not receive much criticism either. Most of the focal point was on how they handled the situation. The matter this time did indeed result in many people dying. The number of deaths was well under less than 10. It wasn't like this kind of epidemic monster hadn't appeared before. The death toll could easily reach hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands. Those who had died received the empathy of the government and donations from many sources. These sad matters were usually not made public by the media nor the government, not just because the reason why there were less than 10 deaths was because someone had killed the Mother Beast in time. At the school general meeting, Academician Li wanted to specifically call up the person who had made a major contribution to the matter this time. 30,000 regular students covered the whole field. What they gasped in surprise about was that the person who had resolved the danger this time was actually a light magician, but the other person who had participated in this was actually the summoner Mo Fan, who had the worst reputation. Before Mu Nujiao had donated funds to the school, there were some people cursing Mo Fan every single day. Yet today, they wanted all of the students to praise him. Many people's faces displayed strange expressions. Strange. How could it be him who killed the Mother Beast? Within the mass of people, among the healing element group, was a short young woman who looked shocked as she spoke. "What's wrong?" the female roommate asked. It's nothing. So he's Mo Fan." The healing elemental girl didn't say more after that. Her gaze was firmly placed on the man standing next to the main character of the day. The school made supreme efforts to praise the light element student. However, in this girl's eyes, the light element Zhao Manyan was actually the support. The real person who had killed the Mother Beast was definitely Mo Fan. Speaking of which, the circumstances back then were extremely chaotic. However, I clearly saw lightning striking the green-scale skin phantom monster. I thought that was the Mother Beast? At this time, another group of people began to whisper. The people at that time were not many, and many of them were oblivious to one another. However, the battle on the stage was too striking. It was impossible for people not to see it. Yeah, I also remember there was an intermediate lightning magician who killed the green demoness. It could be that Zhao Manyan is not only just an intermediate light magician, but also a lightning intermediate. That's not right, we also saw intermediate fire magic as well. Who was the one that cast the intermediate fire magic? The sounds of discussion began. Although the media and school's announcement had stated Zhao Manyan had killed the mother beast, the students were spreading a different version. This version said that there was an incredibly handsome guy who possessed lightning and fire element who had killed the mother beast on the stage. Many of those who were present believed that. There were also many who suspected that it was Mo Fan who possessed the lightning element. However, Mo Fan was a student with the lightning and summoning element, so this version was invalid. Believe me, I was actually near the stage at that time. I personally saw Mo Fan fighting against the mother beast. He had summoned his spirit wolf and then used Thunderbolt to finally kill the mother beast. Heavens, that mother beast was definitely a warrior-class creature. Mo Fan single-handedly killed her. I even saw the blood on his face. One of the guys yelled out. Are you crazy? He is only an intermediate magician. How could he possibly possess that many elements? Furthermore, you said his face was covered with blood. How are you still able to identify him? Damn. Why won't you guys believe me? When Mo Fan and the mother beast were falling from the lift to the stage, only half of his face was wounded. He was bleeding the whole time, but how could I possibly forget the face of my enemy? It's definitely that summoning element Mo Fan. He killed the mother beast, the guy said firmly. You must have been so scared that you saw wrong. The matter has already been announced, so what are you even saying? It must have been hidden, definitely. Not good. I need to discover the dark secrets, and get the true rescuer justice. There were people who had seen the truth. Unfortunately, when Mo Fan was being carried out, his face was indeed completely covered in blood, so much that no one could recognize him. Since the officials had announced it was Zhao Manyan, then everyone thought it was him. As for the hidden secrets, there were indeed some secrets, but they were plotted by Mo Fan and Zhao Manyan themselves. It was all going precisely as the two of them had discussed this from the beginning. One wanted the money, the other wanted the fame. So why not? When the school general meeting had finished, Mo Fan was originally going to return to his old habit of avoiding the peak hours to go eat. After carefully thinking about it, he knew he had basically washed himself clean. Assisting someone in rescuing people was a very righteous thing. No need for him to be carrying that infamy anymore. Mo Fan and Zhao Manyan had colluded. They specifically went to a pretty good restaurant to have a good meal together. Mo Fan, you know that spirit-grade lightning seeds are not something that can be found just like that. We plan on going to the National Trade Center to participate in the auction. When the time comes, our Zhao family will definitely use our money to purchase that spirit-grade lightning seed. Once we've bought it, we'll immediately give it to you. Is that all right? Zhao Manyan said to Mo Fan. Auction? Are there a lot of good things there? Mo Fan asked. Of course. If you have anything you want to buy or anything you want to sell, you can go there. How about this? I'll bring you with me on Sunday, Zhao Manyan said. All right, bring me along to take a look, Mo Fan nodded. In Mo Fan's greedy hands was a warrior-level spirit essence. This was something you couldn't just sell to some small vendor. A million RMB thing like this was competitive. Mo Fan planned on selling this spirit essence so he could then purchase a better magic shield. The bone scythe shield he'd won from boss Zhongkong could be considered almost useless now. Mo Fan had a bit more money now, so he wanted to quickly acquire a more suitable piece of magic equipment. Without one, it would be hard to say whether he'd be able to survive another encounter with a creature at the same level as the mother beast. If he couldn't buy a magic shield, then he planned on taking a look at what other things could possibly increase his strength. Not long after, there would be a main campus examination. When that time came, how could he possibly compare himself to those experts who carried a grudge against him without any equipment? Chapter 200 High Price, Warrior Soul Essence. Although the matter had caused a huge sensation, it eventually calmed down in time. Furthermore, most of the people's focal point was now on the young hero from the Zhao family. Zhao Manyan was indeed very carefree. From the beginning of school until the arena incident, Mo Fan had thought of this guy as just a simple pickup artist. Other than picking girls up, it didn't seem like this guy did anything else. Now, he took advantage of the opportunity and soared in fame, becoming a reputable person within the school. It was indeed a rather miraculous thing. Fortunately, Zhao Manyan also knew how to return the favor. He would occasionally introduce a couple of pretty girls to Mo Fan. Being an upright person, Mo Fan would normally reject them. After they agreed on the weekend, Mo Fan and Zhao Manyan went to the National Trade Center together. There was an auction hall on the top floor of the National Trade Center. The auction was usually held once a month. Mo Fan had never been to a place like this before, so he used Zhao Manyan and obtained a pass to enter. This auction hall is very exclusive. Either you spend a lot of money for a membership here, or you have to obtain a certain level of background. You need to be the rank of a hunter master to have the qualifications to come here. Other powers, or families, require a certain position for it, Zhao Manyan explained to Mo Fan as they walked along. In other words, those without a position cannot participate in the auction for magic goods even if they have the money? Mo Fan asked. That's right. A magician is always lacking in things no matter what level they are at. This is also why a lot of the smart ones join some of the higher powers. One reason is because there is a lack of resources. Not everyone is like those magicians in the Hunters Union, going out to remote areas to dig for treasures without a care for their own lives. Another reason is that most of the resources that are native to the safe areas have already been occupied and controlled by the greater powers. In fact, I actually admire you. You don't have any background whatsoever, yet you were able to cultivate to this level. You should know that most of the magicians who are at the very top either cultivated bitterly and risked their own lives, or were forced to sell themselves to the powers, Zhao Manyan complimented him. If I have something I want to sell, where do I go? Mo Fan asked casually. Right now, Mo Fan's family did have some money. The scholarship given to him by the school was around 2 million, and then the commission from the hunt had added yet another million. Originally, his request was to bring back his wife and child safely. However, he knew that his own wife had almost turned into the source behind a calamity, and even though she was directly beheaded by Mo Fan, he still gave him the other million. He knew how painful it was to be infected. In his words, at least his wife was finally free of the demon. Adding on the 1.5 million RMB from before, Mo Fan is now a man with 3.5 million RMB in assets. Providing for a girl in school was not much of a problem for him. Note: at $1 to 7 RMB, he's worth $500,000. Mo Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had put in so much effort to earn so much money, yet he was unable to compete for a single thing. There were indeed more rich people in the world. What do you want to sell? Zhao Manyan asked. Warrior-level soul essence. Mo Fan didn't hide it. After all, he still had to borrow Zhao Manyan's identity to sell his things. Just like how if you wanted to bid here, you'd have to be either a member or you'd have to reach a certain position in society to sell something. Speaking of which, that brat Lingling's title as a hunter master was indeed very important, or else it'd be very hard to mingle in the domains of the magicians. A trivial matter. Wait, did you say a warrior-level soul essence? Zhao Manyan was suddenly shocked as he opened his eyes wide to stare at Mo Fan. Yeah, damn, you sure have some freaking luck. You even obtained a warrior-level soul essence? Is it from that mother beast? Zhao Manyan exclaimed, obviously shocked. Mo Fan was also puzzled. This guy Zhao Manyan seemed to have the same moral integrity as Mo Fan himself, especially his choice of words. Yeah, I didn't think I would gain it, either, Mo Fan nodded. I respect that. I truly respect that. Others have killed who knows how many warrior-level magical beasts, yet none of them have been able to get this stuff. You only killed one, however, if you think about it, it does make sense. This mother beast was presumably very different from the other warrior-level magical beasts. The more special these creatures are, the more likely their spirits will turn into soul essence upon death. However, speaking of which, how could you have a soul container? That kind of stuff is not cheap at all. Zhao Manyan's expression showed admiration. For a disciple like him, the resources he could receive were not unlimited. A spirit-grade elemental seed or warrior-level soul essences was extremely precious. The families wouldn't just casually give them to the youths of the new generation. Either way, Zhao Manyan had never received something that expensive in all his years in the family. Looking at Mo Fan, he had first made a transaction with his own family to receive a lightning spirit seed. What caused Zhao Manyan to be really shocked, however, was that this guy had obtained a warrior-level soul essence. Even Zhao Manyan would react to it when the mother beast gave out this kind of stuff. Soul container? Mo Fan asked, as he didn't quite understand. How are you able to collect a soul essence without a soul container? A soul container is usually something that are made by those soul magicians who meticulously study the soul. This kind of thing is used for collecting soul remnants and soul essences. If I remember correctly, the worst kind of soul container costs at least 5 million. For yours that can even collect a warrior-level soul essence, you can't dream of buying one if you don't have at least 1 or 200 million. Zhao Manyan exclaimed, "A container for collecting souls is that expensive?" Mo Fan was also surprised. In fact, Mo Fan had realized this a long time ago. The soul essences and the soul remnants seem to be something only he can collect. Even the members from the Hunter Squad in the past were not interested in soul remnants or soul essences. They didn't even seem to see those souls that appeared like fireflies. Big brother, soul essences are used to manufacture stardust tools and nebula tools. Originally, no one was able to collect these things unless they were a soul magician. Now that someone has actually created a soul container, of course they are incredibly expensive. Imagine that even the worst stardust tool used by a primary magician goes from 5 to 10 million. If you're lucky enough to receive a couple of soul essences, then you could become rich overnight. Zhao Manyan said. Mo Fan nodded to himself. So collecting souls are usually something only soul magicians can do. No wonder why the materials to create magic tools and nebula tools were so uncommon. Even spirit magicians were hard to find. Little Loach pendant, so your abilities are this amazing. I am increasingly more curious on where you are from. Mo Fan looked at the little Loach pendant on his chest as he thought to himself. Let's go, I'll help you add your soul essence onto the auction list. It'll definitely be sold for a good price. Zhao Manyan said. At this moment, Mo Fan was also a bit excited. He was very curious as to how much his soul essence would be sold for. Would he be able to buy a house in an area of Shanghai?